Hi all, welcome back to computer science class, and this is our lesson 4, arrays and functions. So already we have studied some concepts in C, that is control structures in C. Okay, good morning to all, and we have completed chapter 3, that is control structures in C, and now we are going to study chapter 4, arrays and functions. So let's start listening to today's class. So this is our chapter 4, arrays and functions in C programming language. Okay. So in C, how arrays and functions are being used. So the key concepts or the main objective of this lesson is what is an array, an introduction to an array. So how to represent array, how to initialize array, everything will be given in the introduction. Then you will be studying the different types of arrays, that is single and double dimensional arrays, and then functions. So you have two different types of functions. One is user defined functions and predefined functions. So first, what is a function and what is user defined function? Then what are the different function callings, that is function with no arguments and no return value, function with no arguments and with return value, and functions with arguments and no return value, and at last functions with arguments and with return values. All these concepts will be studying in this chapter. So basically the main objective of this chapter is you are going to learn a new thing, how to represent different items together in a single array, and how to group all the different functions together in a single component called a function. So basically these two functionalities, usage, properties, and some example programs we'll be seeing in this chapter. So what is this? So before going into an array, let us discuss on some basic concepts. So if you want any 10 input numbers, generally what you will do? Yes, you'll go for a printf statement. So when you want to get a value from the user, you will use a printf statement and a scanf statement. So in a scanf statement, when you give %d ampersand a, some variable, that variable will get its value. Okay, so similarly, when you go for more than 2-3 values, it's okay. We'll go in a single scanf statement. We'll put comma, ampersand a, comma b, comma c, all those things. But when you go for n number of values, that is more than 25 numbers or more than 50 numbers, it is not possible to put multiple scanf. So it will be taking space. You'll be missing out some numbers. You will be missing out some variables, right? So the mismatch between the data types and the variables, okay, all these problems may occur. So in order to rectify those problems, we are going to minimize our work. Instead of going for multiple scanf statements, we are going to use a single concept called as array, wherein you are going to store multiple values in a single variable or in a single element. Okay, so this multiple values should be of a same data type. You should not combine a character, integer, a string together in a single array. It is not possible. Okay, only similar data items can be combined together to form an array. So look at this example. You have 40, 50, 63. So you are storing around 10 or 9 numbers together in a single storage space. Okay, so when you are storing all these numbers together in a single storage space, the first thing is memory space is being reduced and the statements repetition will be reduced. All these disadvantages will be rectified to your advantages. Okay, so here this array is represented using this in this pattern, and the first element indices, that is array index, it is called as index or subscript. So the position of the elements will be represented using the index or subscript. So the first element index will generally be 0, and next it will be incrementing to the next values, okay, till the last. So if you declare an array with a 10 elements, the index will be from 0 to 9. Okay, since it starts from 0, 0 to 9 will have 10 elements. You should not start with an 1 to 10. You can start with an 1 to 10, but basically for an array, you have to start the index with a 0. So here the first index is 0 and last index is 8, and totally how many elements are there? Very good. So totally 9 elements. So this is how array is being represented in memory. So this is an array. What is an array? It is a collection of similar data items. See, look at this example. Only numbers are being stored. You are not going to store any characters here. So similar data items arranged sequentially, that is one after the another, and stored under a common name. So you have a common name for this array storage. Okay, so here x of 0. So let me give this as x. The array name will be x. So x of 0th position will have 40 and one position number 1 will have 55 and so on till x of 8 will be having 89, the last in array value, and the array subscript starts with a 0. Okay, it always starts with a 0. Okay, so next, the properties of an array. So each element of array, it should be of the same data type and carries the same size. So elements of an array are stored at a contiguous memory location. Already I have told you should store in a continuous memory allocation. So where the first element is stored at the smallest memory allocation. What is the smallest memory allocation? Yes, the index position 0. The first position till the maximum place. Okay, elements of array can be randomly accessed. So advantages of the arrays are it is for code optimization. That is, you can reduce the code, maximize the arrays values will have a reduced code. Okay, it is ease of traversing. That is, you can easily move on to the different elements. You can check how many elements are present. From the first element till the last element, you can easily traverse and pick up the elements. And ease of sorting. That is nothing but you can easily arrange the elements in an array in a sequential order, and you can randomly access. You can access the first element or the last element or any element at any position. You can access in an array. But the disadvantage is that it has only a fixed size. So when you define an array to 100, then only 100 elements can be stored, not more than 100 elements. So this is a major disadvantage of an array. So next thing, how to declare an array. So what is the declaration syntax? So the syntax is, first thing, you have to mention your data type, that is either integer, characters. Since it is going to take only a single data type, you have to mention the data type here and the name of the array which you are going to give. And you have to mention the size of the array. So see this example, I'm going to give an integer array, I'm going to store 10 student marks. So I have given the name of the array as marks and the array size as 10. Okay, so you're going to initialize the array. How to initialize an array? You can initialize in the sense you're going to give some initial values to the array. Okay, what are the different ways of initializing an array? So first thing, you can directly mention the position number. If you have less numbers, for example, 5. Only the 5 elements you have in an array, you can directly mention the positions, index, and then give direct value. See, so marks of 0 is equal to 45, 1, 2. So I have given 2 things. So for 3 numbers, you can directly give the index values and give the exact values. And the other way is int marks of, you are mentioning this 3 and directly within the curly braces, you can give the elements 45, 56 and 60. Another way, instead of mentioning this number of values, you can give us leave it as a blank space also and then give values directly. Okay, so this is one way of initialization. This is done only for a small number of array size. So either a 5 element or 10 element, maximum of 15 elements, not more than 15. 15 itself is a too large element. So 10 elements you can give in this direct. So when you go for a number of elements exceeding 10, how to initialize? Yes, good. You have to use your for loop. So for loop will go for repeated number of items. We have already studied in your previous chapter. What is the use of a looping statements? Yes. When you go for a multiple operation, multiple times repeating a same step, then you will go for a looping statement. Okay. So now I'm going to repeat the input statement multiple times. That is, I want to get a 10 input values. So instead of writing 10 different times the scanf statement, you can directly use a for loop, then go for a looping till 10, then get the values. So this is another way of initializing an array, that is getting the values for an array. Okay, next we have the types of arrays. We have three types of arrays. One is single dimensional array, double dimensional array, and multi-dimensional array. So single dimensional array is nothing but one single value, that is a list of 10 numbers, a list of 20 numbers, a single characters, that is only the marks I have to store, or only the names of the students I have to store. This comes under your single dimension. Double dimension in the sense name with the marks, or subject with the mark, subject name and the marks. So when you have two different characters, then that will be stored in your double dimensional array. So multi-dimension is more than one characters, that is for a mark sheet. So a student serial number, name, the different subject marks, all those things will be stored in your multi-dimensional array. Okay, let us see this in detailed format. So first thing, single dimensional array. So here it is specified using one subscript. What is a subscript? Yes, the size of the array, that is given only one, that is one subscript. Okay, so it is also called as a linear array. Linear is nothing but a straight, one after the other sequence. And it is either a row matrix or a column matrix. You might have studied in your max. What is a matrix? Yes, you are representing the elements in either in a row format or a column format. You have 2 by 2 matrix, 3 by 3 matrix, all those things. Only a single row or a single column will be represented using this single dimensional array. It allows access to only one particular element or data that the user needs. Okay. And the syntax for single dimensional array is data type, array name, and the size. We have seen this common thing over there. So example, so I have to store 10 names. I'm giving char, that is the keyword for character, names of 10. Okay. So let us see an example. See, here the marks have been declared and I am printing the marks. So this is initialization of the array and the displaying of values inside the array. So the values are being displayed here as an output. Okay. Next we have double dimensional array. So as I have already told, what is a double dimensional array? Yes, when you have two values, so two specifications. In a single dimensional array, you had only the marks or only the names. But here, when you want to store n number of values, then you go for this double dimensional array. So the array which is used to represent and store data in a tabular form. When you want to represent a table, then you go for a double dimensional array. So it has a finite number of rows and columns. For example, 2 rows and 2 columns, 3 rows and 3 columns, 2 by 2 matrix and 3 by 3 matrix, all those things. So it is also called as array of arrays. Since a row matrix is called a single dimensional array, you have multiple rows, so it is called as array of arrays. Okay, the syntax is the data type and the array name you have to specify, and here you have two subscripts. One is your row size and second one is your column size. So look at this example. Integer marks 3 cross 3, that is 3 rows and 3 columns. You are going to enter the marks. Okay. So the example for double dimensional array is, so look at this, you have two for loops, since one loop statement will represent the row and the other one for the columns. Okay, so multiple rows with multiple columns, and you will be printing using this two for loops. So this will be the output. See, here you are representing using this rows and columns, that is in a form of a table or a matrix. So 3 by 3 matrix. Okay. Now let us see an example for all these array. Single dimension, double dimension. Multi-dimension is there, but that is not necessary for us in this class. Okay. We'll just look at only single and double dimensional array. Okay. Let us see an example. So to do this example programs where we have to go, yes, Turbo C editor, we have to type our program. The C editor, give a new thing. Okay, now let us start typing our program. So hash include stdio.h and hash include conio.h and void main. We are going to do in the main function, and I am declaring an array of integer in a of, let me go with the 5 elements. Okay. Now I have to get the values. How to get the values? I can either assign directly or using the for loop I can get. So I is equal to 0. I is less than 5. I plus plus. And then using a scanf statement, I am going to get the values. So percentage D, comma, ampersand A of this I. In this I element only we are going to get the values. Okay, and then close the for loop. Then you have to print these values. So for, again, I is equal to 0, I is less than 5, I plus plus, and you are going to give printf statement. So printf percentage D, comma, A of I. So printf statement does not contain ampersand symbol Y. Yes, if you give an ampersand symbol, then it will be printing the address. But we need the values. Okay. So to make it still more clear, I'm giving this one more statement, printf enter the values. Okay. So then only instead of a blank screen, I'm just giving printf enter the values. So I'm going to enter the values, and then while displaying the output also I'm just giving one more printf statement, printf the values are. Okay, values are. Now how to compile? Yes, first go to compile, give alt F9. Okay, so I haven't declared I. Okay, now compile. Yes, there are no errors, and then give control F9. Okay, it will be asking enter the values. How many values you have to give? 5 values. I'm giving 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So the values are 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So it is displaying the values. Okay. So this is a single dimensional array program. Next we are going to look an example for double dimensional array. So we have to change the index value here. Over here you have to change the index value to what? Yes, 2 index. I'm giving just 2 cross 2 array itself is enough. It's if it is 5, it will take lot of elements, and since we are using 2 for loops, I am giving I comma j. So enter the values. Now I have to give one more looping statement, that is for j is equal to 0, j is less than 2. So similarly for high loop also you have to change it into 2. Okay, j is less than 2, j plus plus. Okay, so this is a next for loop. Just give an open parenthesis. Then we have getting a scanf statement, then give an closing for loop. And again for printf statement, one more change. What we have to change? Yes, good. A of I comma I and j, we have to mention both the things. Then again for the printf statement, you have to use second for loop for j is equal to 0, j is less than 2, j plus plus. Okay, for I you have to change the looping value to 2. Okay, now Open the flag braces and then printf a of yes, I comma j, I and j. Then you have to close the for loop. Now the program is over. Let us compile. Alt F9, there is no errors. Then we have to run the program. Okay. So before running the program, I'm just giving the representation as row and column. So I'm just giving one more printf statement to show it in a neat manner. Okay. I'm just giving /n. So the rows will be represented in next lines. Okay. Now Alt R run. So enter the values. We are entering 4 values, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So here it is being represented in this way. Okay. So this is your example program for double dimensional array. Okay. Any doubt? Fine. So coming back to our concept, we have completed what? Yes, we have completed single dimension and double dimension array. So what is our next concept? Yes, it is functions. So functions, what is a function? Here in your array, you are grouping together all the integer data items together in a single name. That is some variable name you are giving for a collection of integers or collection of characters, all those things. In functions, what you are going to do is, you are going to group a set of statements together and give it a name. So for example, when you write a program, you are going to go for a number of statements. See, even in our previous program, we have seen around 10 to 15 lines of coding. Okay, so this is a small program. But when you have a large program, it will be going to around 100, 150 lines or 200 lines. Then it will be very hard for us to read the lines or how it is being executed, where it is moving, everything it will be hard for us. Instead, when you have a grouping of statements, that is when you divide all those 100 lines into small groups. So those small groups will be given under a small individual name. Okay. So when you have small groups, then it will be easier to identify where this particular coding lies, where this particular statement, set of statements is being given. All those things will be shown in that. Okay. So for that purpose, we are going to group the set of statements together under a function. So this grouping is called as a function. So this is otherwise called as a procedure, or it is also called a function in your C program. Okay. Methods. In C++, it is called as methods, or it is also called as a procedures. So it is a group of statements that together perform a task. When you want to go for some performance of task, then you will be grouping that together. So to give a more simpler example, okay, when you are going to do some arithmetic operations, what are the arithmetic operations you have? Yes, addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. So when you are going to add two numbers, subtract two numbers, multiply and divide two numbers, then instead of writing a lengthy program, addition will be given in a single block. You group those statements for addition into a single group, and multiplication, and for division, and for subtraction, everything. You have to group it in different parts. So for that purpose only, we are going to use this functions. Then it will be easy to identify where the add function is being performed. So what is a statement is used for addition. So all those things you can easily identify. So they are reusable blocks of code that helps to save memory and time. So even this also will save memory, because instead of going for multiple statements and multiple lines, you can group together in a single statement. Okay. And it is also known as a procedure or subroutine. So it is also called as a method also. So subroutine or procedure, the other names for a function. Okay, so the advantages of the function are you can avoid rewriting the same code again and again in a program. So for example, the addition program, when you want to go for it again, instead of doing the same subtraction, simply you are going to change the symbol alone. So you have to write again the same coding, right? So instead of doing that way, you can write a single code and you can use it. You can call functions any number of times from any place in a program. So you can use it for multiple times. Okay. Instead of going for only one single execution, you can go for multiple call, right? And similarly, you can track easily when it is divided into multiple functions. So which part is having error, which function block is having error, that can be easily identified using this functions. Okay. So reusability, you can reuse it again and again. That is the thing it is given here. Call functions any number of times, that is reusing. So rewriting the code again and again. Okay. You can avoid it. Then what are the different types of functions we have? One is predefined or library functions. So what is a predefined or library functions? In the sense, we have already learned about some header files. What are the header files you have learned? Yes, very good. First is an stdio.h, then conia.h, then mat.h. All those things are your what? Yes. All those things are predefined header files. So header files, you have some predefined functions. So this is already existing functions. So standard library functions are also called as built-in functions. So they are built-in functions, and some of the examples given here are puts, gets, printf, scanf. All these are some functions that is already defined inside your C editor itself. They come under some header files. Okay, these functions are already defined in header files. So you need not define it. You can use it. Okay, user defined functions are nothing but the functions which is defined by the user according to the requirement. So which can be modified whenever needed. You can modify the function, but for printf you can't modify, for scanf you can't modify because it is already defined in your library. Okay, but in user defined function you can modify on your own. So it reduces the complexity of big problems. You are going to reduce the big program into a smaller one. Then it is defined by the user at the time of writing the program. So whenever you write the program, it is being defined by the user. Okay. So these are the user defined functions. So what are the different function aspects you have? So for basically what you have to do for a function. One, you have to declare a function. And second, you have to define the function. And third, you have to call the function. So these are the different function aspects we have. One is our function declaration, function definition, and function call. So what is a function declaration? Declaration is nothing but you are going to declare the function. That is, you are first declaring, yes, this is the name of a function. And then you are going to define it. Define it is nothing but what are the steps you are going to, what are the actions you are going to perform within the function. And then you have a function call. These three things should be in compulsion for performing a function. So a function should have all these three things. So without these three things, you cannot perform a function program. Okay. So the first thing you should have is a function declaration and function definition and then function call. Without declaring a function, you can't use it. Without calling a function, you can't execute the statements within a function. So everything should be inside a function. Okay, so this is the syntax for all these three things. We'll see with an example all these syntaxes. So for declaration, we'll have the return type, the name of the function, the argument list. And function call will have the name of the function and the arguments which we are going to pass. And function definition will have the return type, function name, argument list. And the function body is nothing but the statements within the function that is being executed. Okay, so here comes your example. See, look at this. So this is your main function. So this is the declaration of a function and calling the function, and this is your function definition. Okay, so you're giving one function name, you're calling that function name, and when you are calling, you have to perform some action. So to perform that action, you have to mention some statements over here. Okay, so that statements is being given inside your function definition. Right. So function declaration, what are the criteria, what are the terms that is being available inside the function declaration is, you have to first mention your return type, the name of the function, and the parameters. So what is a parameter in the sense, whatever values that is being passed inside the parentheses are called as your parameters. So within this opening and closing parentheses, we are going to pass some values, and those values are called as parameters. So parameters are of two types, formal and actual, but this is not necessary at present. But for the program execution, you want to know what is a formal parameter, what is an actual parameter. Actual parameter is the original values or original variables that is being declared in your main function. So whatever variables you are declaring inside a main function are called as your actual parameters, and whatever variables we are using inside a function definition, those variables are called as formal parameters. I'll explain you in an example. Okay, the formal and actual parameters. Then function definition, see this different parts. One is the function definition is nothing but the statements we are going to use. So here you are going to find area of square. So here area is equal to side into side, and you are going to return your area value. So there is a return statement. Return type is your data type, the function name, and the function parameters. And this is your local variable inside, and all these are the statements. And this is the return value. Okay. So different aspects of function calling. What are the different aspects of function calling you have is, you can call a function without arguments and without return value. And then you can call a function without arguments and with return value. So these are the different aspects. So first thing, there are no arguments and no return value. And second thing, you have arguments and with return value. And third thing, you have arguments and without return value, and you have both arguments and return value. All these things are the aspects of function calling. So what is an argument and return value? For example, let us take an example. Whenever you go for a function, or whenever you are visiting your friend's home, what you will do? Yes, if there is kids, you will be buying some chocolates or biscuits, everything. So you are giving to them. So the kids will have it. But when you come back home, will you get back all those biscuits and chocolates which you bought for them? No. So there is no return from there. You simply give some gifts to them. That's it. So that is, there is nothing being returned from them. So that is no return value. When you are getting some returns, then it is with return value. Some values we are going to obtain from that. An argument is nothing but when you are giving some input to that particular function, then it is an argument. When you don't pass any input values, then without arguments. Okay. So let us see, the arguments are also called as ES. It is also called as a parameters. So parameters, you have actual and formal parameters. Okay. So first type is function with no arguments and no return value. So both no arguments and no return value. This is the syntax. So just mention the return type, name of the function, and empty thing, since there is no return value. So see this example. Here void is the return type and sum is the function name, and there is no return value. Okay. So no return value in the sense within the function itself, it will be printing the values. And this is a function declaration, and this is function call, and this is the function definition. So all the three things should come under a program for a function. So this is the output. And similarly, for the second type, function without arguments and with return value, you have a return value. So the same syntax, and here it is going to return some value. See inside the function definition, yes, it is going to return a plus b to the main function. Okay, so it is returning some value. And next thing, you have functions with arguments and no return value. So some values you are going to pass within a function, and there is no return value for that. So here the syntax is return type, name of the function. So arguments as you pass, you have to give the parameter type and the name of the parameter. You can give n number of parameters, not only 1, 2, or you can give any number of parameters. So see here, here they have used two parameters, int, comma, int. So the data type, the integers. Okay. So this is your function with arguments, and there is no return value. And lastly, you have as functions with arguments and with return value. So both the things. So you have the return type and the same syntax. So here, instead of using void, you are going to give integer, since it is going to return some value. Okay. Now, this is time to, yes, recap. Okay, what are the topics we have discussed? Yes, first is your array, what are the different types of array we have seen? Single dimensional array and double dimensional array. This is an example representation. Only a single row or a single column is being represented in a single dimension, and for a table or a collection of rows and columns, you use your double dimensional arrays, right? We have seen an example program for that. And then what are the different function things we have seen? Yes, without argument and without return value, without argument and with return value, with argument without return value, and with argument and with return value. Okay, all these 4 types of functions we have seen with an example. And now it is assessment or activity time. So in order to do an activity, yes, you have to go and log in and join the class. So this is our class code ZSBQHFU, and you have to join your computer science class. And here I have posted an activity in Nearpod. So it's a small quiz relating your filling the blanks in your book back exercise. You have to complete it. Okay. And then you have an assignment also to write the programs. So for using a single dimensional array, you have to print 10 natural numbers. What is a natural number? Yes, from 1, starting from 1 till 100, thousands, everything, that is a natural number. So you have to print those values in a using single dimensional array. And the other program is you have to print a 2 by 2 matrix with values. So these are the input values you have to get 1, 2, 3, 4. Using the double dimensional array, you have to print these values. Okay. So that's all with today's class. Okay. Thank you, children. Stay home. Stay safe. Thank you.